She didn't come to America chasing luxury. She came because staying in Malawi meant watching her children grow up with less than she had. And she had grown up with almost nothing. She worked. She sacrificed. She smiled at people who looked right through her. And then the day came when she had nothing left. No job. No savings. No family within 8,000 miles. 2 children asleep in the next room, hungry, trusting her completely. That night she made a decision so desperate, so quietly devastating, that even she could not explain it without her voice breaking. She agreed to carry a stranger's baby inside her body. But before that, she did something smaller. Something that would set everything in motion. She walked into a pawn shop, placed her mother's ring on the counter, and took $10 for it. $10. For the only piece of home she had left. Stay with me. Because what happens next will remind you that the strongest people are not the ones who never fell. They are the ones who kept getting up when falling would have been so much easier. This is the story of Amara. A mother. A surrogate. A woman from Malawi who refused to disappear. It was a cold Thursday night in Memphis, Tennessee. The heater had been broken for 4 days. The landlord had not called back. In apartment 2C, a young woman named Amara sat on the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet, her bare feet on cold linoleum, and a refrigerator behind her that held half a carton of milk, 2 slices of bread, and a single egg. Down the hall, her 2 children were asleep. Kofi was 6. Nia was 3. Before he fell asleep, Kofi had looked up at his mother with those steady, serious eyes and asked the question that had been living in Amara's chest all evening. "Mama, are we going to eat tomorrow?" Amara smiled. She always smiled, even when it cost her something. "Yes, baby. Mama is going to figure it out." After the children were asleep, she walked to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, looked at the bare shelves, and then looked down at her right hand. The ring was still there. Gold-toned, thin band, worn smooth from 6 years of daily wear. Her mother Chimamwa had pressed it onto her finger at the airport in Blantyre the morning Amara left for America. "It is not worth much," her mother had said, "but it is from home." Amara twisted it slowly. She thought about Kofi's question. She thought about the rent notice slipped under the door that afternoon. 14 days to pay the full balance or vacate. She pulled the ring off and held it in her palm. So small, so light, weighing almost nothing and everything at the same time. "Tomorrow morning," she whispered. "First thing." She placed it on the counter beside the empty fruit bowl and stared at it for a long time. She did not know it yet. But that ring was about to start something extraordinary. To understand Amara, you need to go back. She grew up outside Blantyre, Malawi, a country sometimes called the warm heart of Africa, and those who have been there will tell you that name is earned. Her mother sold vegetables at the local market. Her father worked at a printing shop. They were not rich, but they knew how to make just enough feel like plenty. Amara was the quiet one, the one who read every book she could find, who did homework on the front step by the last of the daylight. At 20, she received a scholarship to study healthcare administration at a college in Memphis. She graduated with honors. She met Darius, warm, funny, full of energy, and married him within a year. They had Kofi, then Nia. But Darius was carrying things he did not know how to say out loud. Financial pressure that turned inward, then outward. By the time Nia was 18 months old, he was gone. No fight. No forwarding address. Just silence, the way some people leave, like a hand pulled out of water. Amara had 2 children, a country that was not hers, and no one within 8,000 miles who had known her before all of this. She did what she always did. She kept going. The next morning she dressed the children and walked 5 blocks to the pawn shop on Lamar Avenue. The man behind the counter did not smile when she walked in. He picked up the ring, held it to the light, and set it down. Gold tone. Not real gold. $10. 6 years of carrying home on her finger. $10. Amara wanted to say no, but then she felt a small hand on her leg. She looked down. Nia was looking up at her with wide, quiet eyes, just holding on. That was enough. "Okay," Amara said. He counted out 10 single-dollar bills one by one. She folded them, put them in her pocket, took Nia's hand, put her other hand on Kofi's shoulder, and walked out without looking at the ring again. Outside, the cold hit her face. The tears came. She turned her back to the children and wiped her eyes quickly. "Mama, why are you crying?" Kofi asked. "It is just cold, baby." They walked toward the grocery store. Amara did not look back, but inside the pawn shop, someone had been watching. A man had been standing in the far corner, near a shelf of old electronics. He had watched her place the ring down. He had seen her fingers linger on it. He had seen Nia reach up and hold her mother's leg. And he had seen Amara swallow hard and say okay. He walked to the counter after she left. "I'll take that ring. $10. He picked it up and turned it slowly. On the inside of the band, almost worn away but still readable, one word was engraved. Delitzo. He did not know what it meant. He put it in his jacket pocket and walked outside. Amara was already out of sight. He would carry that ring for exactly 89 days. His name was Marcus. And this is his story too. $10. Amara walked straight to the Save-A-Lot and did the math in her head the whole way there. Milk, bread, peanut butter, rice. That left her with 19 cents. She put a single banana in Kofi's hand. Just one for today, baby. That night, she made peanut butter sandwiches cut into triangles, because Kofi once said triangles tasted better than squares. She gave the children their food and sat watching them eat. She did not make a plate for herself. If she skipped meals, the food would last 5 days instead of 3. 5 days was enough time for something to change. The rejection letters had been coming for months. Clinics, offices, call centers. Every interviewer who looked at the gap on her resume looked at her the same careful way, with a polite expression that meant one thing regardless of the words that followed. No. It was during the worst of these weeks that the text message arrived. A woman named Grace, someone she had met once at a Malawian community gathering, wrote, "I heard you might be looking for work. A friend of mine is looking for a gestational surrogate. They pay well. Just thought I should mention it. No pressure." Amara read it once, put the phone face down, looked at Nia asleep on the couch. She did not reply that night, but she did not delete it either. She picked it up the next morning and typed 2 words, "Tell me more." Grace arranged a meeting at a coffee shop in East Memphis. The couple was already there, Catherine, early 40s, careful eyes that had learned to assess things quickly after years of disappointment. Robert, quieter, with the patient stillness of a man who had learned to let the things that mattered lead. Catherine told her about 7 years of trying. 2 pregnancies that ended before they could become what she needed them to become. The slow erosion of hoping and adjusting and hoping again. Then she said, "Tell me about yourself." Amara told her about Malawi, about Kofi and Nia, about raising them alone. She said it without apology and without asking for anything. Catherine reached across the table and placed her hand briefly over Amara's. "You are exactly who we were hoping to find." The compensation was $32,000, paid throughout the pregnancy. Enough to pay the back rent. Enough to stop living on the edge of a cliff. She signed the contract with a steady hand. The embryo transfer happened on a Tuesday morning. Before the procedure, a nurse asked if she had any questions. Amara had one. "Will I be able to tell the difference between this baby and my own?" "Some surrogates do," the nurse said. "Some find it takes time. Everyone is different." The procedure took 12 minutes. 2 weeks later, a blood test confirmed it had worked. She sat in the clinic room and waited for a feeling she could name. What came was something quieter than joy or fear. The sound of a door closing behind you. Not slamming, just closing with a soft final click. She sent Catherine and Robert 2 words. It worked. Catherine's reply came in seconds. Robert's came a minute later. "We will never be able to thank you enough." Amara read it on the bus home, Nia asleep against her shoulder. She pressed her cheek against the top of her daughter's head and closed her eyes for one stop. Just one. Then the doors opened. She stood up. There was dinner to make, children to collect, a pregnancy to carry, and a life to hold together. She kept going. The first time she felt it, she was washing dishes. 4th month. The kitchen window was open, the smell of cut grass drifting in. Her hands were in warm water, her mind nowhere in particular when she felt it. A flutter, low and interior, like the brush of something small against the inside of a drum. She had felt it before, twice. The body remembers. During their next check-in call, Catherine asked how she was feeling. Amara said, "The baby is moving." She kept her voice neutral. Catherine made a sound that was not quite a word. "What does it feel like?" Catherine asked. "It feels like a question," Amara said. "Like something asking, 'Are you there?'" A long silence. "What did you answer?" Catherine said softly. "I said yes." "I am here," Catherine cried. After the call, Amara pressed her palm flat against her abdomen. The baby moved again, slow and deliberate, like a hello. "I know," Amara said quietly to the empty kitchen. "I know." She found part-time work at a community health center on Poplar Avenue. The director, Miss Lorraine, was a woman in her mid-60s with reading glasses on a chain and hands that looked like they had done real work all their life. During the interview, instead of telling Amara what hours she needed, Lorraine asked, "What hours work best for you?" No one had ever asked Amara that before. For 6 weeks, she felt steady ground. The payments are arriving. The savings account is growing. Kofi making a friend at school. Nia learning new words. The refrigerator is no longer empty. Then Kofi started coughing. By the second night, his fever hit 103. Amara wrapped him in a blanket, put Nia on her hip, and walked 6 blocks to the bus stop in the cold. At Regional 1 Medical Center, they waited 2 hours. "Pneumonia," the doctor said. The billing woman came, clipboard in hand. "No insurance?" The estimated cost, $2,900. Amara signed the payment plan. What else was there to do? That night she sat beside Kofi's hospital bed holding his small hot hand, the heart monitor beeping steadily. She thought about everything she had done. She had sold her ring. She had found work. She had agreed to carry a stranger's child inside her body. She had done everything right. And here she was, drowning in a bill she would never be able to pay. It felt like climbing a mountain with no top. Her phone buzzed. "Lorraine, your boy comes first. You still have a job when you get back. Take all the time you need." Amara read it 3 times, then held the phone against her chest. She was not alone. Not completely. Not anymore. Marcus was 32. An electrician. Rough hands, quiet life, 1-bedroom apartment, most meals eaten alone. He had grown up in foster care after his mother, Charlene, a single mother who worked 2 jobs and never stopped moving, died of illness when he was 8. She had no health insurance. She kept working until one day she couldn't. Before she died, she pressed her ring into his palm. Gold-toned, thin band worn smooth. "Keep this," she said. "It is the only thing I have that means anything." Marcus carried that ring for 24 years. Then someone broke into his truck and took it. He filed a report. He drove to every pawn shop in Memphis. It was gone. That is why he was in the pawn shop the morning he saw Amara. Not to buy anything. He went the way a person visits a graveyard. Not to find what they lost, just to be near the kind of place where lost things end up. When he saw her place that ring on the counter, he did not see a stranger. He saw his mother. The same trembling hands. The same quiet courage. The same impossible choice between holding on to something precious and keeping a family alive. He bought the ring before he had fully decided to. He carried it in his pocket every day for 89 days, took it out each night, read the engraving, Delitzo, and wondered if she was okay. He wondered if her children had eaten. He was going to find her, and he was going to give it back. It was an ordinary Thursday in the 7th month. Gray sky, wet streets. Amara was at the front desk of the health center entering patient referrals when the door opened. A man walked in. Work boots, frayed jacket, rough hands. He stood just inside the door and looked around. Then his eyes landed on Amara. He froze. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked. He did not answer right away. Then he walked slowly to the counter, reached into his jacket pocket, and placed something small and gold-toned on the desk. Gently, carefully. The way you set down something that has been waiting a long time to be put down. Amara looked at it. Her breath stopped. She knew that ring. She knew the weight of it. She knew every faded scratch of it. She picked it up with shaking hands and turned it slowly. The engraving was still there, worn almost to nothing, but still there. Delitso. She looked up at the man, her voice barely a whisper. Where did you get this? I was in the pawn shop that day, he said quietly. I saw you take it off. You bought my ring. Yes. Why? He was silent for a moment. Then, because my mother was a single mother too. And the only thing she ever gave me was her ring. I know what it means to carry something like that. And I know what it costs to let it go. The tears came fast and hard. Amara pressed the ring against her chest. She was not crying because of the ring. She was crying because for the first time since Darius walked out the door, someone had seen her. Not looked at her. Not glanced past her. Seen her. Really, truly seen her. I do not want anything from you, Marcus said softly. I just want to give it back. It belongs with you. She asked him to stay. He sat down. She told him everything, Malawi, Darius, the children, the ring, the $10, the surrogacy, the pregnancy she was carrying right now, Kofi's pneumonia, the hospital bill, the rent notice. All of it. He listened with his hands folded and his eyes steady, without interrupting, without pity, without judgment. When she finished, he leaned forward. I am not rich, he said. I am an electrician, but I know some things that might help. He told her about the hospital charity care program. Most hospitals in Memphis could reduce bills by 70 to 80% for qualifying incomes. He told her about Memphis Family Assistance, which covered up to 3 months of emergency rent. He told her about a free 6-month healthcare administration certificate at Southwest Tennessee Community College, with starting pay around $22 an hour when completed. He said it the way you give someone directions. No drama. No grand gesture. Just information. A map to doors she had not known existed. Why are you telling me all this? She asked. Because someone told me once that the hardest part of being broke is not the money. It is not knowing what doors are out there. You cannot walk through a door you do not know exists. Lorraine appeared from the corridor. She saw Amara at the table with a stranger, tears still drying on her face, a ring in her hand. She went to the small refrigerator, came back with 2 bottles of water, set one in front of each of them, and walked away without a word. But as she turned the corner, Amara saw it, a small, quiet, knowing smile. The kind that says, I have been waiting for this. 6 weeks later, Amara went into labor. Catherine held her hand through the contractions, which undid Amara in a way she had not expected. Not the pain, the hand, someone holding her hand. The baby was born at 7:43 in the morning. A girl, a full head of dark hair, and a cry so immediate and certain the whole room exhaled at once. The nurse placed her in Catherine's arms. Catherine looked down at her daughter and made a sound that was not quite crying and not quite laughing. Something in between that has no name in any language, the sound of the thing you have been waiting for finally arriving. Amara watched from the bed. She waited for grief, as the counselors had warned her about. What came instead was something else. Completion. Like a sentence that has finally arrived at its last word. Like a promise kept. Before they left the hospital, Catherine looked across the room at Amara. What does Delitso mean? She asked softly. It means blessing, Amara said. Catherine looked down at her daughter. Then that is her middle name. 2 years later, Amara walked across a small stage at Southwest Tennessee Community College and received her healthcare administration management certificate. Lorraine was in the 3rd row clapping hard enough for 10 people. Marcus was near the back wearing a clean shirt and that quiet, steady smile of his. Kofi was in his chair with his feet, not quite reaching the floor, yelling, That is my mama. She went to work as a healthcare supervisor at a clinic on Union Avenue. $23 an hour. Enough to pay rent on time. Enough to buy groceries without counting every dollar. She moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. Kofi stood in the doorway of his new room and said, Mama, this is the best day of my life. Marcus kept showing up. Quietly. He fixed the leaking tap without being asked. He built Kofi a bookshelf from scrap wood. He brought Nia a coloring book from a gas station. Small things. The kind that builds something solid underneath. One evening after the children were asleep, Amara sat on her bed and slipped the ring off her finger. She held it up to the light. Delitzo. She waited for the pain. It did not come. She placed it in a small wooden box on her nightstand and closed the lid gently. Not goodbye. Thank you. Thank you for what it had cost her. And thank you for what that cost had started. The ring was not a wound anymore. It was a mile marker. Then one Saturday morning, a young woman walked into the health center. Early 20s. Baby on her hip. Red eyes. She walked past the desk and stood near the window, looking around the way a person looks around a place they have entered, not because they had a reason, but because they needed somewhere warm that would not ask questions. Amara looked at her and saw herself 3 years ago, standing in a pawn shop holding a ring and holding everything together with nothing. She stood up from her desk. She walked over slowly. She sat down in the chair beside the woman and said nothing for a moment. Just sat there, close enough to matter, far enough not to intrude. Then she spoke. I do not know what you are going through, but I know what it feels like to think you have nothing left. She paused. Can I tell you a story? The woman looked at her. Her eyes were wet. She nodded, and Amara began. Just like that, the circle continued. What this story teaches us. 3 things. First, never judge a person by their circumstances. The woman selling a ring for $10 today might be the woman changing someone's life tomorrow. Second, helping someone does not require a fortune. Marcus was not rich. He did not write a check. He saw a woman in pain, and he paid attention. He showed up. He shared what he knew. That is all. And it changed everything. Third, letting go of something precious is not the same as giving up. Amara sold her ring, and that $10 ring became the thread that connected her to Marcus, to Lorraine, to a new career, to a new life. She did not lose her ring. She planted it. Have you ever had to give up something precious for someone you love? Have you ever been helped by a stranger when you least expected it? Tell me in the comments. Every single one. And if you know someone fighting alone today, please share this story with them. You never know whose life a story can change. Thank you so much for watching. May you always find kindness when you need it most. And may you always be the kindness someone else is praying for.